Hello.
Welcome to NECANN and the Nixter.
Yeah, that's
My name is Nikki Lawley, and I'm a traumatic brain injury survivor. One day, about 5 years ago, a child didn't want a shot. I was working as a pediatric nurse, and just like any other day working in pediatrics, nobody's a super fan of getting injections, but this was just a regular kid that, I hate to say it, but was, excuse this improper term, tripping balls. He was freaking out. He was about my size, and he literally was terrified of needles. This was not my first rodeo. Another nurse was there, called me in to assist, and it happened just like that. I got behind the child, and he headbutted me. And when that happened, my entire world changed. When he headbutted me, I then bounced into a wall and then back into his head.
Oh no.
I've had concussions before. I didn't think it was going to be a huge big deal. I truly believed it was just like, let's just chill, relax, and reset, and you'll be fine. I went to urgent care, and it was definitely a concussion, closed head injury. Again, I had him before, it wasn't a big deal. That was the last day I worked, and that was October 11th, 2016. And that was my career, but before that, just so you kind of get a background on me, that I was a really hard worker. I actually owned my own HVAC company. I was the filter queen in real life. I ran a huge woman-owned business. I mean, huge for me. It was like 12 employees, and I was a real expert on indoor air quality. Imagine if I was still in that field right now. Just side note, right at the beginning of COVID, I was just like, why are we not talking about the filtration?
Yeah.
How are we not understanding that this is a virus, and in these little restaurants, in these little places, we're just recirculating the same air. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that soapbox, but the whole point is, I couldn't understand, like, I'm the girl with the brain injury now, and like, I'm figuring that out, and I'm not, any kind of scientist. So, anyway, I also worked as a casino dealer. For 7 years, I worked as a casino dealer and a pediatric nurse at the same time.
Wow.
And everything in my life has sort of become a purpose. Every single puzzle, every single struggle, every single thing that was happening after my brain injury, I really figured out, all right, that makes sense why I went through that then, so now I can see the lesson instead of the tragedy. Instead of, you got divorced because this guy was a real creeper. Like, at the end of the day, but at the time when you're going through it, you don't see the end result. And brain injury has taught me one thing, and that is, if you look behind you and you remember all the things you used to do, all you're going to do is be depressed. If you look forward to the future and you try and figure out what everything has to do, all you are is anxious. If I just stop, look, and listen and live in the moment, everything just kind of flows, and you get a sense of belonging. I was anti-cannabis before I found this plant. It took me to go to different doctors because I was injured at work. I was forced into the workers' comp system. The New York State workers' compensation system is anything but a patient-friendly system. It's a system designed to make you fail. It is a system, and I am not trying to say every doctor in the world is bad. I'm not here to, promote that every doctor hates patients and it's just about a paycheck, because that is not the case. But in the workers' compensation system, there's a whole new breed of physicians. It's a whole new breed, meaning you are a number. You are a number, and their job is to get you out of the system. And when you suffer a brain injury, everything is different. The way you think is different. The way you perceive things is different. I use the example of football players because everybody knows how much, publicity has happened because of chronic traumatic encephaly, aka CTE. CTE is the more times you get blows in your head, it basically causes so much inflammation and things just get taken over. Again, I'm not trying to sound too medical here or too technical, but I began to understand CTE after I was injured. And once I started to put those pieces together, and after I got hurt, I started seeing myself as a CTE patient, because even though I didn't wear a helmet, even though I wasn't constantly being beat up in the head, that blow that really affected my brain. As I mentioned before, I was a very productive person. I mean, I was a dealer at the casino, so I could, do math like nobody's business. The doctor on one hand is saying, you're fine, you can go back to nursing, you can do all this. I tried to deal a game of rummy to my family at Christmas. I was a casino dealer, you guys, like blackjack, like fast. I was entertaining, I was fun, and I could not deal 7 cards to 5 people at my dining room table. I could not count those cards to be able to deal the quote hand, and my mom was trying to cheer me up, and she's like, oh, let's see how the dealer does it, and I mean, I was a really good dealer. So that was sort of the true OMG, there's something wrong. I go to the grocery store and try and pull out a handful of change in my hand. I couldn't count the change, but you want me to go back and be a nurse and take care of your child in a situation where I don't think I can count the CPR beats and the breaths. That's not cool. So I was so hopeless. I went from being the nurse, the colleague, the respected professional, to being the patient. That transition was horrific. All I can say is I truly learned what a patient goes through. What a patient goes through in a way that I never felt I treated that patient. But when I was a new patient and all these different doctors, that first I played in the system the way I'm supposed to. And then all of a sudden I said, this is not working. So I started seeking alternative treatments and alternative therapies and looking outside of Buffalo, New York. I started looking, in New York City and Florida, and tried to get a real answer, because all these doctors in the workers' comp system were saying, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you. And I knew my mind was not right. I knew there was a problem. I was put on 16 different pharmaceuticals at the same time, including a couple supplements. It was one drug after another to just combat the side effects and the symptoms of what was being caused by the other drug.
Yeah.
And so after being on 50 plus medications, after seeing 60 plus physicians and healthcare providers, I ended up going through approximately $50,000 of my own life savings to try and get an answer. After 18 months, I finally found that answer. I'll get to that in a second of how I found cannabis, because how I found cannabis is a true part of the story. So my husband, being the cool guy he is, said, Nikki, you're just too depressed. Let's go to Vegas. That's your favorite place. The dealer, the casino, that kind of whole thing. So I said, all right, let's go. And after the trip from Buffalo to Las Vegas, I was in thermonuclear meltdown mode. The pressure, the kids screaming, the people, everything was just really bad about that flight. I've stayed at the Cosmopolitan Hotel for years, and this was my favorite place to go. Balcony, beautiful view of the Bellagio fountains. Any other time in my life, I would have been in paradise. I could not leave that hotel room. I could not stop crying. I could not function. Like, I'm in the most beautiful place in the world where I love my life, and I can't leave the room. I just can't. So literally, I was in such a dark place. I look over the edge of the balcony and I'm thinking, you just gotta end it. You're just a burden. You're just a horrible human, and you're creating so much drama for everyone around you, and just, excuse the term, fuck it. Like, there's nothing to live for. The only thing I had at that point, because I felt like a burden to everyone else, was my pets. I'm an animal lover, and Ziggy, Harley, and Marley just wouldn't understand. So that was like the tiny little thing that kind of kept me going. But about the time I'm looking at jumping over the balcony, I discover the pool area. The pool is right there, so that's not going to work. So, like I said earlier, the whole concept of being suicidal, and then you discover right below you is the pool area. It kind of changes, puts a little damper on your plans. So, but at that exact moment, a billboard came driving by, a mobile billboard that traditionally would have the, we call it the ballet in New York, because that's just kind of what, anyway, it's irrelevant. But basically, I'm looking at the billboard and I see, get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today. Now, I had smoked weed. I am not saying this was like a complete brand new, never had experience, but what happened was I always viewed it as potheads, and you're just lazy, and like, whatever, get your Cheetos and watch your movie. And that was my perception. My father was the drug liaison between Canada and the US. So weed was not an accepted cool thing at all. Growing up, and again, I grew up in the Nancy Reagan era. Just say no. And then your brain on drugs with the nice fried egg that, everybody. So this billboard's driving by, and what do I see? The fried egg on the pan. I'm like, oh, well, your brain's already fried. How much more can we fry it? It was almost like cynical. It was like, all right, great idea. So my husband comes back to the room because he's like, you're ruining our vacation. And, and totally legit. I mean, my husband's like been St. Jack, quite honestly, because I have had some moments over the last 5 years. I would divorce me for sure. Legit. I mean, truly. He's been a very forgiving human. But again, everything happens for a reason. We met when I was 25 years old and he was 52. The age difference thing wasn't a big deal then, but as you get older, it becomes more evident. I truly believe this brain injury caused me to stop, look, listen, and value what you have. Because at 45, I was on a way different path than I became at 46 after I was injured. You know, you go through the old midlife crisis, the dudes get the new car, I got the new boobs. You know, it was just like one of those cases that legit, you truly are trying to be someone, you want to be the 25-year-old again, you know? I mean, it was like 45, it was like everything started sagging, and you're like, no, oh my God, I'm too young for this. And so, bad idea. But the point is, after my head injury, again, that became way less important. That whole image thing just kind of went right out the window, because what was important was I made it through that whole suicide experience, that whole I'm ready to die and give up every single thing I have. And I don't know where my dogs are gonna go. At the end of the day, the dogs kept me going. They really did. 3 Yorkies, you know, little shits, but they're fun. I found cannabis that day because of that billboard. My husband was eager to try it. You've been happy when you've smoked pot, let's go. And so my husband, who's Saint Jack, who literally, the Catholic, the doesn't drink, doesn't, you know, just really conservative dude, for him to say, let's go, that was a pretty huge thing. But again, just get me out of the hotel room, right? Like, let's just do something. So I get the card, I'm sobbing through the whole thing. I'm like, I can't remember my medicines. And the girl at the Vegas, get your weed card today, literally said, honey, it's okay. You don't have to remember all that stuff. You're gonna get the card. and like my vitals were filled in on the page already, so I was cool with all that. Like, but I was trying to be the nurse, right? But I couldn't be the nurse anymore. Now I'm the patient. And now I'm trying to remember what drugs I'm on. I'm a nurse, you guys. So like, drugs are not something we forget. I couldn't remember my own medicines. So after that, I go to a dispensary. I got some 22-year-old dude behind the thing, and you know, I'm 46, brain injured, sobbing, just feeling like a total burden to everyone. That was a huge thing. And he gave me every product pretty much on the planet. He didn't know what to do with me. I mean, like, I'm like, I never used pot for medicine. And, you know, my dad will kill me. And, like, it was that whole thing. And I'm like, is it really going to fry my brain on drugs? Right. I'm a nurse, right? Like, I should know that this is not going to kill me. I should understand that this is not a life risk. But, again, I have a brain injury. B, I've been taught it's bad. And C, what's an endocannabinoid system? Like, where the hell did that come from? And I truly, when I first heard those words, I'm like, you are so full of whatever. Whatever you're smoking, you just go right on ahead, because there's no endocannabinoid system. I mean, that shit's, if that's a system, and I'm a nurse, I should know about it. Like, it just seemed absolutely preposterous. And I could not believe that this was not taught in nursing school. Like, legitimate homeostasis, that means balance. Why are we not taught about balance in nursing school? Why are we not taught about teach the patient about their condition instead of just waiting and seeing what happens? Actually make a difference and actually learn about them and actually spend more than those 12 minutes that are scheduled. And God forbid your other patient, you know, took 3 minutes and oh, that drug rep that brought those donuts and coffee, you know, all these things cut into your visit. And after being just a number in the workers' compensation system, and then I literally in Vegas was ready to die. I go to the dispensary, I get the products, I try the products, and nothing worked, really. I mean, I was eating the gummies, the tinctures, they tasted okay, some tasted disgusting, but I was trying that whole edible thing to not fry my brain on drugs, because smoking was something that just grossed me out. I mean, I never was a smoker, I never enjoyed smoke. My mother was a daily, 2-pack a day, so coffee, smoke, the whole thing, just bleh. So I never was ever into smoking, but again, I got 2 joints from the guy at the dispensary, and none of the tinctures, none of anything that involved first pass digestion, going through the mouth, it just didn't work. And I have a unique digestive system. I've learned since, there's a whole other topic on that. But legitimately, I smoked that joint. It was the first time I left that room in Las Vegas. I was able to go out to dinner. My husband said, "This is my wife, the one I've been telling you about." And that guy was like, "Wow, you're so beautiful." I'm like, "I smoked a joint, man. Like, I'm out. What do we got to eat?" And again, it was sort of this eye-opening experience, but I had to smoke my medicine. I had to inhale, I had to combust. Every person that uses cannabis has a way that they have to experiment and find what works for them. There's no standard of care for traumatic brain injury. One traumatic brain injury is not like the other, despite those 2 people maybe having the exact same blow with the exact same force. It is impossible to predict the outcome. And that was something, again, I was not taught about in nursing school. What is the invisible illness? The invisible illness is when you look okay on the outside, when everyone thinks you have all your shit together, but they don't see what it took you to get there. They don't see how preparing for this trip, it took all my brain energy for like 10 days to just try and figure out what I was gonna say, how to make you guys understand that the nurse voice matters, but the patient voice matters a little bit more, because we're the ones going through it. Becoming a patient would have taught me how to be a better nurse. However, that path has been closed for me. I am not a nurse being a nurse anymore. But now I'm an advocate. I am an advocate with a voice that is changing lives and changing minds. It's not about Nikki Lawley. It's not that I'm so special or my story is so abnormal, because every single one of us in this room knows someone or has experienced it themselves. Something life-changing and something that changed you and made you appreciate life a little bit more. I can tell you that brain injury has changed my life for the better. I can tell you that I am helping more people now than I ever did as a nurse. People reach out to me every single day, thanking me for this my post, or saying this really, really resonated with me. Thank you for sharing. Every day, you guys, and I'm so humbled by that. But again, I'm not trying to be a celebrity. I'm just trying to normalize the conversation. I'm trying to remove the stigma between, if you smoke your medicine, that means you're bad. That means you're just getting high. I don't get high, you guys. I get medicated. Yeah. And at the end of the day, quality of life is everything. Why we are restricting the use of this plant, why we are, honestly, if you would have told me your kid was taking cannabis for seizures, for autism, for whatever, I would have called Child Protective Services on you. That is how much my opinion has changed. The war on drugs, when I started learning all the reasons cannabis is illegal, all of the reasons that we have been, literally this plant has been put through hell and has no respect because of the war on drugs. Because the United States government, and this is not, I am not a conspiracy girl, you guys, okay, at the hell all, but I'm just saying this stuff is real. And I, as a nurse, as a regular human, we don't know what we don't know. Invisible illness, invisible disability taught me a lot about what I didn't know. It taught me a lot about chronic pain. It taught me so much about how hard it is to want to give up, but not be able to do it. But then what's even harder is to try and come out of that hole. So back to how I found cannabis. I come home to New York. When I come home to New York from Las Vegas, it was in 2017, January. I expected, since I got this medical card in Nevada, it would be just as easy in New York State. Guess what? Not so much. So this little glisten of hope, these little 2 joints that allowed me to get out of that position of planning my death and go out to dinner and actually had an effect on me. I now lost that hope. I now lost that little bit of, you got this, girl, you're gonna make it through. I mean, cannabis is not a cure-all. Cannabis is a tool in the toolbox. You have to change your way of thinking. There's so many things brain injury does that you have no idea what someone's going through. And, it's so easy to get caught up in the cycle and in the hamster wheel and just be like, oh my God, what am I gonna talk about? Oh my God. And you know what? I was all prepped to go, prepare and smoke and medicate. I gotta tell you, Boston, those Wana gummies, rapid onset, they're okay. They're the first thing I've ever consumed that I actually feel medicated on. I mean, nice. You guys don't understand. I've tried 3,500 products from Canada, from various legal states, and when you find the right medicine, oh my God, that's all you want. Literally, Canbiotic cereal milk in LA, I become the Rain Man, okay? That whole thing about counting and stuff, legit shit. I can do 3 numbers, shit in my head. I mean, that's big stuff. So kudos to the cereal milk. But if you were here for Ben Kaplan's chat, it's really disgusting, some of these names, okay? All right, the other day, somebody posts about their titty bubbles. Do I, as a 51-year-old woman, want to go up to the bud tender, hey man, you got some of that titty bubble? Or how about, you got any Alaskan? You're scared to say it, right? Because it just sounds so gross, right? I mean, I am no prude, you guys, okay? But seriously, if I want to go tell Mary down the street for her arthritis, go get some cheetah piss, sis.
Right.
I mean, it's just not cool. We've got to do better as an industry. And, when I get home from New York and I'm totally at despair's door, I'm put on another couple of drugs and, I'm really ready again to go down that rabbit hole of the not good place. I had friends in Canada, and because I was a dealer in the States, I became friends with so many people from Ontario. And they said, we've got pot here. I'll have my wife get the prescription and just smoke that pot here. And I'm like, Okay. And, okay, so when Steve D'Angelo, if anyone heard him talk this morning, or this afternoon, whatever the hell time it was, time is just kind of stopping right now. But literally, he was talking about the underground market and how efficient it is and how amazing it is. I'm in Buffalo, guys. What he's talking about is not in Buffalo. Because literally, anybody I wrote to on social media that was a cannabis user, you're in New York. I'm like, yeah, I'm in Buffalo. Like, everybody thinks just because the state, New York, right? They all think Manhattan, right? I am not from Manhattan. We have a subway that goes like 3 miles. It's not a big deal. You guys got tunnels and shit. So all I'm trying to say is there's a huge difference from upstate New York and downstate. So I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't understand the legacy market. I mean, when I say I smoked pot in the past, it was like somebody else had it, somebody else bought it. Like, I didn't know what an ounce was. Like legit. I didn't, because I didn't buy it. So, oh my gosh. So the challenge was, now I would go to Canada. I tried several different cultivars there, and I'm like, how am I going to know what works and what doesn't? Because I can't remember how I walked into a room, much less what strain helped me. So, and again, all these weird names, and it's super, isn't there an instruction book? Like, don't we have a brain injury 101 intro to cannabis for dummies? Like, there's got to be something out there. And that's when you try and go on the internet and you have a brain injury and you absolutely cannot remember how to use tabs. You can't remember how to use the computer. And so that just becomes a whole other frustrating source of issues. So again, I tried a little Google, I tried a little this, but I really relied on people in Canada, because then I started finding things that not only allowed me to get out of the room and out of the bedroom, but things that actually connected my dots. Everyone asks why I love polka dots and red. Because cannabis allowed me to connect the dots. Cannabis has allowed those receptors in my brain to connect in ways that no pharmaceutical has been able to, that no treatment has been able to. So trust me when I tell you that I was the skeptic. I was the one that, no way. But I'm here to say I was wrong. I changed my mind. And now I've become the advocate, right? Now I want other patients to understand it's not a one-size-fits-all. And doctors really are not savvy on the plant. They don't know what they don't know. And until they are in a situation where themselves or a loved one goes through that need of the plant, or they get the diagnosis of cancer. This plant can heal so many things. This plant can do so much for daily functioning, for enhancing your quality of life. Like grandma that's super mean that has dementia in the nursing home. You guys, what are we doing here? Yeah. Let them have some cannabis. Yeah. What the hell? Why should they be miserable and their caregivers? Okay, I'm not political at all, but shit, Russia, let's get them some cannabis. Everybody needs to chill the fuck out. Yeah. Right? I never thought I'd be the peace over war chick, but I am all about that. Call me hippie Nikki. I don't care, but really, peace over war. And I felt like I was fighting the war for my own health, for my own sanity, for my family's life, livelihood, and function. Being a patient sucks. It sucks so bad, and anybody who is on disability, I assure you, they don't like that. I mean, who does not want to have a purpose in their life, something to wake up to every day, that life doesn't suck. And, if you don't sleep well at night, your next day is going to be shitty. But imagine continuously never sleeping, continuously being in pain, continuously forced to make doctors attempt to understand what you were going through. And I didn't understand brain injury enough to be the doctor, to be able to communicate. I gotta say, guys, I'm much better now because I took my own health in my own hands because I was forced to. Yeah. Because if you're not your own advocate and don't learn about your body and what works for you, if you trust those guys, they're with you 12 minutes. Okay, 12 minutes is a whole lot different than 365 days, 364, because he spent 12 minutes with you, so we won't count that day. But, with travel time and shit like that, figure all that in. But, legit, if you guys think about it, we are only here for a limited amount of time. We only know what we choose to know. Walking in someone else's shoes, I've done it because I became the one on the other side of the table. I became the one who's going to speech therapy. Like speech therapy, I'm the one who at 46 years old was using a pill box, right? Like I had 16 pills a day. And then I couldn't just use the one kind, like I had to get the pill box that was like a freaking toolkit, because there were so many different times of pills and you had to eat with this, not eat with that, and oh my God. I mean, it was a full-time job, but I failed miserably, It was truly a challenging time. So I'm up in Canada on one of my multiple jaunts because now I'm a medical cannabis Canadian refugee. And I love moose. So I mean, with my love of moose, I should just be a Canadian. Because, I'm like over the top with moose. I sort of kind of feel like I'm a moose trapped in a human body. Like, seriously, because I hit it so often now, like antlers, moose, you know what I'm saying here? Like, get a visual. I feel like I've always got a big rack on my head, because no matter what, even though I'm, 4'11" and a half, I can manage to hit this head on shit like you would not believe. That is one of the joys of brain injury, because I have no depth perception. So, noting the stairs, noting the depth, I have learned through time. We need to observe things like this. But really, these are things you always take for granted, right? Like, and becoming that patient was just shitty. And I'm still that patient. But man, I manage it a whole lot better with this plan. When COVID hit, after I find all this great quality of life for a good solid year and a half, and I'm learning about the plant, and I'm really bonding with my moose mates in Canada. They were like legit my friends, and it was absolutely horrible when the border shut down. So March 20th, 2020, my now link to quality of life, gone, cha-ching, with the garage door shut again. So, okay, so at this point I'm doing much better on cannabis, I'm like managing my life much better, but this was my consistent medicine. I knew what worked for me. Why did I know what worked for me? It's called a journaling app. And a journaling app can change your entire understanding of what works for you and why. A journaling app can change how you understand the plant. How, I can tell you, I have smoked no less than 40 different cultivars of Blue Dream.
Nice.
It's okay. You know, it's always just been okay. But I have Blue Dream in Las Vegas by Verano. People, Blue Dream was an alright strain, but that is not the experience I've had a million other times. What I'm trying to say is, as a patient, we expect a certain quality of medicine. We expect a certain consistency of medicine. We want to know that our thyroid medicine is the same every time we get it, right?
Right.
I want my cannabis to be the same every time I get it. But it is a plant. It has multiple varying things. So one of the things I'm advocating for and hoping to help change, and besides remove the stigma, besides, change the dialogue, get rid of ATF, get rid of titty balls, like legit, or meat breath. I mean, like, you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's soapbox, but it really bugs me. But really, we need to talk about terpene profiles. We need to have access to that tested product. Look at the hemp farmers. The hemp farmers have to pretty much, bleed on their COAs to prove that it's accurate. Why are state medical programs not required to do the same thing? Why are state adult use programs not required to do the same thing? Why is it that, again, this isn't all labs, this is not a blanket statement, but why is it that some labs have been noted to be taking, you need the 30% THC? How about we go 30.9 for an extra 9? Really? I just would love authenticity. I would love to see us all be kind and be the change that you want to see in the world. When people can't find medicine, when people can't have access to medicine, it's hurting us all. Cannabis is my medicine, and cannabis saved my life. Why? Because the right terpenes, the right mix, the right recipe works for me. And I learned that through a journaling app. And it took consistent using of that to be able to learn. But having the right experience, you can learn it, but you have to be willing to try. And there's so many different options, and each one of us has different systems. And there's not one size fits all. All I can say, you guys, is I'm trying to do the best I can with what I have right now. Please be kind. We can all make a difference. Thank you.